Recently, there's been a lot of talk about a given individual being a, quote, vigilante, and I wanted to kind of discuss the idea of vigilantism on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Monday, the 22nd of November, 2021. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble on the podcast and on YouTube. Thank you for coming along today. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform, and the subject for today, again, is vigilantism, and I'm going to go through my notes real quick, and this will give you some idea, maybe sort of where I'm coming from. Arguing that the likes of Kyle Rittenhouse are vigilantes is foolishness. Whether he placed himself in the position in which he found himself on purpose or was there by accident is largely irrelevant. His intent is what matters. Was he there to bring harm to others or to try to protect the property of folks he cared about or who paid him to do so? Did he have it in mind to harm anyone? If you can't argue that he was there to hurt even bad people, how on earth can you consider him a vigilante? Vigilante. Excuse me, that word's kind of an interesting one to me. A vigilante is not somebody who seeks to protect life or property. Rather, a vigilante is a person who, when he or she sees an illegal or at least badly improper action having occurred, and gone unpunished, seeks to remedy the failure he or she witnessed or believed occurred. Now, I'm going to try and get into detail on this later in what I have to say. When somebody comes into a situation where no such act has yet occurred, and particularly when that person is working to keep such things from happening without the use of deadly force, they're not acting in some sort of revenge mode. Excuse me. The fact that their activity wasn't directly sanctioned by law enforcement is beside the point. Does that mean such a person has done or will do nothing wrong? Should we assume there's no reason to arrest, charge, or try or convict them? Neither is true. You can be driving your car down the street above the speed limit and be pulled over, right? Same thing applies to a person who's not acting in a vigilante mode. Mr. Rittenhouse, as an example, had his day in court for a number of things, none of which appeared to imply he was out to enforce the law where law enforcement failed to do so. Now, you can make arguments about the idea that he was trying to keep people off of private property or whatever, but that's not something that law enforcement does. I just want you to know that. They don't do that. They don't keep people off private property. They charge people when they get on private property, trespassing and so forth. As it happens, the folks who sat on the jury decided, and I believe rightly so, though I have to defer to their response, like it or not, that he was innocent where the things with which he was charged are concerned. Is it possible they could find that he did some stuff wrong that they really should have charged him for and that he was guilty of? Yeah, it's possible. None of this makes such a person a vigilante. So, a vigilante is not a person who seeks to protect life or property from damage or harm. That's not what that is. Okay? That individual is doing a different job, and I'm going to talk about that some more tomorrow in a little piece I've entitled Security Guard, where I don't consider Kyle Rittenhouse per se exactly a security guard. He sort of is. He sort of is acting in that mode, or was, in what he did. And let's just be clear on something. When he actually got into the scuffles and so forth that ended up ending lives, and I'm going to agree with Tim Pool on this, any loss of life is an unfortunate thing, even for terribly horrible human beings. Look, Paul the Apostle was there assenting to the stoning of Christians. You don't think I could honestly say about somebody who, even doing horrible things to children, as I understand one of the individuals is accused of at least doing, and I think they went to jail for it, so probably found guilty of. You don't think that I'm saying that person ought necessarily to be killed for that. Now, is it possible that they should? I'm not even going to argue that. According to American law, as far as I know it at this point, that's not a course that will probably be taken for an individual who does that kind of thing. But my point is to say this. The things that Mr. Rittenhouse got involved in, and I've seen this over and over again. I look at Mr. Zimmerman, George Zimmerman, right? He was doing his job as a security guard in the local area. Wasn't a police officer, was a security guard, was doing his job, and apparently the young man, Trayvon Martin, jumped him. Police officer who was in Ferguson, I forget his name now, but the point is that police officer was acting in his capacity as a police officer, and was, as far as I can tell, was charged by Michael Brown, I think his name was, the fellow who ultimately ended up being shot to death as a result. The police officers who were working in Kenosha prior, for the thing that caused all of the hoo-ha in that area, they were doing their job, and they were of a mind that somebody was going to potentially do something harmful to others, and they took action. The young lady who got shot when she was chasing somebody around with a knife. In none of these cases were the individuals vigilante justice examples, and that goes just as well for Kyle Rittenhouse. He was literally bashed over the head, or very close to it, with a skateboard. He saw, as people have pointed out, it appears, no way out of his situation other than to basically shoot his way out. Now, it's horrible that it worked that way, and I see no way to make that a happy thing. That's not a happy thing, okay? And nobody's trying to say that it is. Even so, the point of all of this is that it wasn't the act of a vigilante justice type of a person. He wasn't seeking retribution for crimes committed. He was trying to keep himself alive and moderately healthy in a situation where it looked pretty desperate from everything that I hear. And I think most of us would have considered that a pretty desperate situation had we found ourselves in it. And we can argue all day long that Mr. Rittenhouse should not have been in the situation that he was. For most of the people that I'm talking about, other than maybe Zimmerman, we can't make that argument because that was their job. That was what they were doing. And truly for Zimmerman, technically it was his too. Rittenhouse was there at the behest of someone else, and he was not apparently doing anything illegal. Now, can I say that for certain? Absolutely not. I can tell you that none of the things that anybody said that he was doing that were illegal can be found to have been so. This I know, right? Because they already did the trial and they already found him not guilty. Now, they're looking into it on a federal level, supposedly. My answer to that is I expect it to be just like any other thing that was looked into on a federal level. People are going to look at it, they're going to dig around in the dirt, they're going to see what they can find out. You know what they're ultimately going to figure out? Yeah, this was on the up and up, and nothing wrong was done here. In fact, they're going to look at the case and they're going to go, boy, this was flimsy. There's no real way to make the argument that this is was actually ever a real case. And really, probably the judge should have thrown most of, if not all, of the stuff that was charged out, including the lesser charges that could have been leveled if they had come up. But that having been said, the important thing in my mind is this. This individual and others like him were not acting as vigilantes. If they had been, what they would have been doing is seeking retributions for what they perceived wrongs having been done. That's not what they were doing. What they were doing was dealing with what ended up being, whether you like it or not, emergent situations, and that is pretty much the long and short of it. Did Rittenhouse say to himself, that guy's a child abuser, I'm going to shoot him? I hate to tell you this, but I don't think Rittenhouse had any idea that that guy was that, or that any of the other guys were whoever they were. So this idea that this is vigilante justice, that's just not true. There's just nothing to that, and anybody who wants to try and make it out that this was vigilantism, they're just confused. They're just mistaken. So I don't know a better way. I can't think of a way to make that clearer for you. They didn't do what people are saying they did, regardless whether or not they committed any crimes. That didn't happen. All right, I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Monday, the 22nd of November of 2021. That means tomorrow will be Tuesday, the 23rd of November of 2021, obviously. Welcome to everyone who's come along on Rumble, the podcast, YouTube. Thank you for having done so. Again, welcome is probably not the most appropriate thing there, but that's okay. We'll work with it and we'll live with it. My preferred platform is Rumble. Obviously, you can give me a boxing glove or a plus on Rumble as a positive feedback. You can give me a minus as a negative feedback. If you choose to do that, you can give me a thumbs up or a like on YouTube. If you like what I've done, you can give me a thumbs down or a dislike there if you think that I'm all wet or whatever it happens to be. Wherever I put my content, you can comment to let me know how I've done, whether it's good or bad, or you just sort of want to add your own 2 cents or whatever it happens to be, and I will do my best to look at it, see what you've had to say, and I will work to respond if I think that's a reasonable thing. But one way or another, I will try and look at it and come to understand what it is that you're saying. Hope that you're doing well today. Hope that things are going well for you. By the way, the subject for today has been vigilantism, and tomorrow we're going to talk about security guard. But again, hope that you're doing well and hope things are going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again on Tuesday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Monday, the 22nd of November of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, and maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that, and you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.